Welcome to 4.8. We're still in Middos and we're covering a number of metaphors. My personal suggestion is that you teach one metaphor a week. There are about 28 total, so usually there's about 25, 26 weeks in the entire school year. So about one a week. Each metaphor doesn't need to take more than a few minutes, but you're drilling in again and again similar type messages. I am thought. My Middos are thought. Happiness is thought in the moment. Anger is thought in the moment. How long is the life of a thought? As long as you think it. Oh, so I'm only one thought away from the next thought? Oh, that's interesting. And since Middos is only thought in the moment, jealousy is thought in the moment. Lotita, don't have resentment, don't be revengeful. All these are thoughts. So I'm always only one thought away. And recognizing the simplicity of this through metaphors gradually enables children to pay more attention to the source of their experiences, of their feelings, which is thought in the moment. So that's really the purpose of these metaphors. And now we're going to do metaphor number 8 of 4.8, and it's called the Rolls Royce or 67 Chevy. Now 67 Chevy works for those of you who are familiar with what 1967 Chevrolet looked like. Well, it's just an expression of a beat up, bashed up car. So whatever you might say is the equivalent of that today, that's what it is. So it's a Rolls Royce versus a 67 beat up Chevy, and here's the essential goal is to get in touch with who's the real me. Is it my outside, which changes? I get older as the years go on. Our body even changes shape. Features change shape. Our hair changes, or just hair today, gone tomorrow. So the outside of us changes. Our environment, the home we live in, the country we live in can change. But who we are inside never changes. The essential us, the neshama, that never changes. We're going to get to that in this mashal. So imagine the following. Here I am, a 67 Chevy. I'm an old car, bashed up, got quite a few scratches and some bumps. Actually, I take a lot of insults, and I've really gone through a lot of unkind words that have been said to me, and each one of those is a scratch on the body of my car. So here's this 67 Chevy, an old bashed up car. So if you give me a kick, an insult, or a scratch, well, you know what? Who's going to notice? I've got so many of them already. So I almost become immune to the fact that I get bashed around. I'm not just saying about bullied, but, just emotionally traumatized and pained and hurt by other people. And what ends up happening is that eventually this 67 Chevy is just so bashed up, it's so unpresentable, that it's taken to the scrap metal dump and see what money we can get for it. And so the boss of the scrap metal company opens up the bonnet of the Chevy and says, "Whoa, this is not a 67 Chevy. This is the engine of a Rolls Royce." What? Yeah, and it's actually in excellent condition. Let me check this out. And he walks around the whole car and says, "You know what? I can see how it's so bashed up. You really think it's a Chevy, and someone put some sort of insignia on the front that makes it look like a Chevy, but actually the engine is Rolls Royce and the body is originally from a Rolls Royce. So you're a Rolls Royce." Really? See, here is the question. Am I only a Rolls Royce now? Or was I Limafreya? Was I always Rolls Royce, just didn't know it? What are the ramifications of this realization? What are the implications of this awareness that I was actually a Rolls Royce all along? You see, the difference between the two, obviously, in the analogy is if I'm a Rolls Royce, you can't come to me with a bat and beat me up. Whoa, do you know who I am? There's an awareness of my value that you can't just give me a scratch. I'm a Rolls Royce. If I'm a beat up 67 Chevy, so so that's what people do to old cars. Another dent, another bump, who cares? But now that I know that I was Rolls Royce all along, whoa. So here's where you open up to the children. You've told them this short story and ask them, so now that we understand that this was a Rolls Royce all along and the internal engine is in perfect condition, so to speak, so what's the exact nimshal? How does this a parallel to you, your body, and your physical environment, and everything that surrounds you, including your parents, your children, your wife, your husband, your home, everything that's outside of you versus who you really are inside? Am I just an old, beat up, not very smart, not as intelligent as many others, or not as financially astute and street smart and shrewd and whatever it is that I compare myself to other cars, other people? But what we're saying is, if this is discovered to be a Rolls Royce all along, then your neshama, which is powering your mind, which is divine intelligence showing up every moment through thought, can never be damaged, scratched, harmed, broken, torn, traumatized, because you're a Rolls Royce. So this is just a very simple marshal. Let's move on to 4.9. 4.9 is all about overweight thinking. Overweight thinking, yeah, so our goal here in this exercise is to have the students notice how much of their overthinking is the problem versus the problem they're thinking about. I'll repeat that. To what extent is my problem the problem versus what I'm thinking about the problem is more the problem than the problem. Possibly 100% more. And the problem itself is only what I'm thinking about. And so this is where I need to solve the problem, not outside. So that's the goal. Now, how do you come to that? How do you concretize for a child that it's my thinking that can get me into trouble as well as get me out of trouble? It's my thinking that can become overweight. So the simple marshal we offer is really the following. Imagine this is my pekel, this is my Nisayan, this is what Hashem has given me. This, well, obviously here it's just a piece of nicely rounded wooden block. But what we're saying is that this is my family, my finances, my physical body, my clothes, my wardrobe, my home, etc., etc. Everything that, my car, my dog, or if I have a dog, the furniture in my life, the friends that I have or don't have, whatever is my pekel, whatever is my nisayon, my test in life, this is it. And as Sfarim tell us, Hashem has designed your world to be perfectly able for you to carry. It's really not too heavy. You can walk around with this not too heavy. But you see, this is what can happen. I actually don't like my family so much, and I wonder, I just wish I had your friends and your brother and sister are so nice to you. And also my mother, she really doesn't understand me. I really don't like her a lot of the time. She's just like always on top of me for everything. And so sometimes I get really upset when I look in the mirror and I don't feel like so pretty, or my nose is too big, or my nose is too small, or my nose is too long, and my chin is I don't know, it's just my chin really upsets me. And I don't know what it is about my hairdo, but I really get upset sometimes. And sometimes I feel I've got no friends, and there are other times in life that I feel got only enemies. And sometimes I feel like, I just don't do well in school. I get such low marks. I'm really bad on tests. I'm filled with anxiety when it comes to my grades, and I'm starting to notice I feel a lot of stress in my life. And if I'm an adult, then the marriage is really, I just feel sometimes that what I'm carrying is just too much. And when I look at my friends next door and they seem to be much happier families than mine, I feel that I'm drowning in the over stress of everything that's happening in my life, and I just don't know if I can take it much more. And I start to notice that I'm sinking with all the stress I'm going through. I can't take it anymore. Oh God, why are you doing this to me? Everyone else seems to be happy and I'm so stressed out. I'm filled with fears and anxieties. I can't take it anymore. And that's starting to feel a bit better. The problem is not the problem. I feel a little bit better as well. The problem is what I'm thinking. The Nisayan is not too heavy. What God has given me is not too heavy. It's just this one here. The problem is my overweight thinking that pulls me down. Oh. So the purpose of this, Marshall, of this metaphor, is to help me realize these are all thoughts. And each one of these is just a thought that can only pop up once at a time. I can only live one thought at a time. Oh, I feel so relieved. And now I can start thinking freely, liberated from all that thinking that's just weighing me down. And we actually use the language of feel under the stress, or I'm just carrying too much. I'm juggling too much. Something's got to give. And the problem is not all the problems I'm paying attention to. The problem is paying attention to my problems. It sounds like such a subtle distinction that it's almost you can't separate the two, but really they're universes apart. It's not the peckle that's hurting me. That's designed so I can carry it. It's not too much. The peckle starts to get heavier and heavier when I'm paying attention to the peckle, when I'm paying attention to what's not right in my life, or with my wife, or with my friends, or in the family. It's what I'm thinking that's weighing me down. That is very liberating, because now that we know, as we've mentioned before, the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, hem ha-machshavos tovos v'ha-machshavos ra'os, that we quoted Likutei Moharan in Torah Mem Tes 49. It's not complicated. It's actually extremely simple. That's the problem. Because it's so simple, it just could easily go over my head. And the simplicity of it is that I exist one thought at a moment. And since I can't have more than one thought at a moment, then when I start noticing, it's the overweight thinking that's really weighing me down. How much I talk to myself about what I'm struggling with and what I'm stressed out by, and my friends and whatever's going on in the classroom that's really annoying me. And I feel like I never get chosen on the teams in school time, and in recess I'm never on the winning side. And even the kids start telling me, "Oh no, don't choose him. We'll lose the game if he's on our side." And I'm doing this to me. So this is simply an illustration, overweight thinking, using the metaphor of wooden blocks. If you don't have wooden blocks, it doesn't matter. You can, if you're the teacher in the classroom, you can just take a pen and say, "This is my peckle. This is my." It's just as long as you concretize it, and then you take a stapler and put that on top and say, "My negative thinking that's pulling me down," and then you put on top of that, I don't know, an eraser, and then a fountain pen and a crayon. And each time you add something that's in your range of the classroom, if you can't bring blocks into the classroom, or you can get even rubber bricks, then use anything, because the metaphor is only for the children to concretize. It's all thought that's weighing me down. And just knowing that, you see, there's nothing you have to do per se to get rid of the thoughts, rather than drop the thinking, let go of the thinking. It may sound super simple, because it is. But it's all about just acknowledging that, stress is a thought. Oh, anger, frustration. Oh, yeah, that's a thought. Upset with my friend in the classroom. Yeah, that's a thought. Not getting chosen on the team. Yeah, that's a thought. And once I know it's thought, then you know what to do next. Your internal Rolls Royce, your internal innate health, your internal resilience that's always there, the music of your neshama, which is always playing, will surface, will be heard, and you will know what to do next, whether it's pure ignoring of the next thought, or it's turning on peaceful, relaxing music, or whether it's calling a friend, or whether it's doing an exercise, or whether it's just refocusing my mind to distract myself from the stress of just overweight thinking. So invite the children to share with you their insights into the metaphor. Always do that after the metaphor. Always ask them, what did you learn from this? What does it make you realize about your own thinking? And ask it in a way that you're not putting them on the spot. You're giving them guided questions that direct them in the direction of recognizing, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, I've done that. Oh yeah, I do that a lot. Or oh, that's not so much me. Oh, so I'm more healthy than I realize. And how far am I away from mental health? And the answer is one thought away, just drop. The overweight thinking. That's the key. So before we move on to the next metaphor, if you feel the children are sophisticated or intellectually ready, you could actually talk about the mechanics of an Nisayan. They're not that complicated, and in Pirkei Avos you can quote from Perek Hey, Mishnah Gimel, where Chazal tell us that Avraham Avinu went through 10 Nisyonos. He's the king of tests. And the last one was really, it was a lot to carry. Really a lot to carry. God, why are you telling me to take my son, my only son, the one I love, and bring him up as an oila, as a korban? So Avraham Avinu could have had a lot of overweight thinking. What was his Nisayan? So interestingly enough, you look up all the Mefarshim, the consensus is really the following: Shelo hiher acharav. He did not think after it or him. He didn't think about God and the possible injustice. He just didn't go there. I mean, just delete. Drop the overweight thinking. He was not overweight thinking. So in the language of Rashi, on that Mishnah, Perek Hey, Mishnah Gimel, Shelo hiher achrei midosav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu meroiv ahavasoi. He didn't think in terms of questioning the justice of Hashem because of his tremendous love for Hashem. What does that mean? The child so implicitly trusts mum, dad, that when the child is thrown into the air, they just know dad's going to catch them. And when they are so trusting of mum and dad because they know mum and dad loves them so much. Avraham Avinu had such a deep love for Hashem in recognizing Hashem's love for the whole of creation. His whole mechus, his whole essence was built on the recognition that this world is just saturated with God's kindness. So there was no question that God would do or ask of anything that would sabotage that assumption. The assumption, the predicate is, God loves me. That's not negotiable. So if Hashem tells me, I'm going to give you a son, and 30 years later that son is finally born to me, and then 37 years after that, the one only son I have from Sarah Miriam that was promised to me, I'm now asked to bring up as a korban oila, so that does not suddenly negate Hashem's perfect track record of love and kindness towards me and all mankind. So Avraham Avinu, Shelo hiher achrei midosav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He didn't question, he didn't ask for a second, where's the justice in this? Remarkable. So what the simple point we're bringing out is that was the test, not to think. Like we mentioned many times, you'll find Holocaust survivors, they didn't think about the Holocaust after the Holocaust. They were busy building their lives, their families, their businesses, building homes and schools and yeshivas and communities. They weren't thinking about the past. The past was history. They couldn't help think about it at night when they had their nightmares. But during the waking hours of the day, that's not where their mind was. Oh, so who you are is always what you're thinking. And this, with the building blocks, if we can call them building blocks, these are ways to help materialize and concretize for children how to become more aware that who I really am is thought in the moment, and that the physical world that acts upon me is really my thinking about the physical world. And what I'm focusing on in the moment is who I really am, not what's happening to me. Okay, so I think we exhausted that point, and let's go to metaphor number 10. My palace is my mind. That means to say, if a child was told, this is a palace, enormous rooms, dining room that can hold 100 people, a living room and many, many bedrooms, bathrooms, everything that you could possibly need inside this palace, you get to furnish it yourself. You can put any furniture in, and you can any pictures you want, you can put on the wall. So ask the children to write on a post-it, a happy thought. I'm happy. If they want to put because, you can put that as well. But a happy thought. Smiling, that's a happy thought. Okay. I'm going on a trip with mommy and daddy. A happy thought. Any happy thought you want. It can be, I'm healthy. I've got loving family, I've got hobbies that I enjoy, anything they want. Give them examples if they have a difficulty, and write those on Post-its, and then draw on a whiteboard or the blackboard in your classroom, draw a large frame, and if you know how to make it like three-dimensional, so that you will then draw a little bit of furniture, very simple stick figure type furniture, a table, chair, etc., and say this is your palace, and you get to put on the walls of your palace any paintings or pictures that you want. Now have the children come up front and put their Post-its on the walls of their palace. The metaphor, of course, we're going to get to is the palace is you, it's your mind. The house you live in, the mansion you might live in, well, that's the physical location of where your body travels through your home, but your true home is over here. So have the children put their little Post-its up and read them out loud, and then have the children write out on a Post-it, each one write their own. It can be less than a sentence, just 2 or 3 words. I'm angry, frustrated, I'm hurt, I'm pained, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm fearful, I'm full of anxiety. You can give them examples, but I'm sure they can come up with their own. I'm jealous, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I have no friends. Whatever they want to come up with, and write it down. Each one will write one on a Post-it, bring them up front and ask them, do they want to put this on the walls of their mind, the walls of their palace? Now, I'm guessing that most of the children will say, no, we don't. Oh, so what should you do with it? And then ask one of the kids to go around with a waste paper basket, which in America is translated as a rubbish bin or garbage can, and just throw those Post-its away that they don't like and they don't want to put on the walls of their mind. The simple analogy is that the physical palace is nowhere close to the true palace that you have here between your ears. And really, if the children are ready, you can then quote from Mishle, which correctly translates as metaphors. A marshal is a metaphor. From the book of Proverbs, which is otherwise translated as from Shlomo Melech, King Solomon, the wisest man of all. Chapter 15, verse 15, that's easy, 15:15, where he tells us, Kol yemei ha'ani ra'im. And ask the children if they can translate these words. Put on the board, Kol, all, yemei, days of, ha'ani, the poor man, ra'im, are bad. Now, before you get to the second half of the pasuk, ask the children, do I need Shlomo Melech, Hacha Mikol Adam, to reveal this to me, or could I figure that out myself? That if a man is very poor and he can't afford to pay his bills, he can't afford his rent, he's going to get chucked out of his house, he's behind on the mortgage, he might get foreclosed, not behind on school fees and the car lease and groceries and who knows what. He's maxed out on his credit cards. And talk to the kids about Kol Yemei Ha'ani, all the days of the poor man, Ra'im, they're bad days. They're really not good. He's being chased by creditors, people who he owes money to. It's really hard. But Shlomo Melech, you're the Hacham Mikol Adam. Why would you need to tell me something that's so obvious? You don't need such a wise person to share with me. Now, let's go to the second half of the verse and ask the children, what type of poverty is Shlomo Melech talking about? Because if it's talking about material poverty, I'm financially poor. I don't have money. I owe all over the place. Then what should come in the second half of the verse? All the days of the poor man are bad, but all the days of the rich man are good. You hear the logic? It's a rational sequence. But look at the rest of the pasuk. V'toiv leiv, a good mind, mishter talmid, is at a constant banquet. Oh, a good mind is a constant banquet. Oh, so what type of poverty was the first half of the verse that Shlomo HaMelech, Hacham Mikol Adam, was revealing to us? Oh, it's not talking about material poverty, it's talking about much worse. The worst poverty imaginable. Poor thinking. Poor thinking doesn't mean slow, unacademic, unintelligent, very low marks in class. No, even if you've got kids who are struggling academically, there are plenty of the same kids who are struggling academically, who are whiz kids in other areas. And very often, it's not infrequent at all, it happens a lot, that the same kids will do extremely well in real life. They might be extremely popular because they get along with other kids. They've got interpersonal intelligence, emotional intelligence, intrapersonal intelligence. They're very aware of themselves, and they've got leadership qualities, and they're failing in math, failing in language, doing really poorly in Chumash. That's not unusual. So the piece I'm bringing out is we're not talking about poverty of the mind that you and I usually associate, poor thinking in terms of slow, unintelligent, doesn't have very good memory and doesn't do well on tests and grades and report card. We're talking about much worse. We're talking about poor thinking, which means the world is a beautiful palace. Not as beautiful as your mind, but this is what's so amazing. You get to choose how to furnish your palace, your mind. You get to choose which pictures to hang on the walls of your mind, which pictures to remove from the walls of your mind. This metaphor is actually inspired by Rabbi Victor Miller on one of his tapes, where he goes to town on this pasuk in Mishlei, explaining that this is what matters the most. Toiv lev mishta tamid. Now you look at the Gemara in Bava Basra, I think it was Kuf Mem Beis, round about there, where it tells us what's the meaning of this. So one mandama, one opinion tells us, Kol Yemei Ha'ani Ra'im is referring to a person who's da'asai mekutzar. He's got a narrow mind. He can't see the big picture. Can't see all the white in that massive graph paper with the one black dot in the middle. No, there's a black dot in the middle of all that white, but the white is the real world of all the good that's happening all the time. The black is the bad news because it steals my attention, because it's news, it's different, because all the rest of life is just doing really well. Yeah, 99.9999% of people who go swimming don't drown. 99.99999% of people who go in the car don't have a fatal accident. 99.99999% of aeroplanes that lift off the ground actually land safely. So that's not news. 99.999% of your bodily functions are really working efficiently and well all the time. But when something doesn't happen, as for Sean, that's the black dot, because it's news, it changes everything. I get focused on what's not working. So a narrow mind, dasai mekutza, and then so what is toiv lev mishta tamid? That is someone shadasai harchava, broad, sees a bigger picture. Rabbeinu Shalom, you're everywhere all the time. You are the divine intelligence in every element of the Bria, of the creation. And you are the divine intelligence that gives me ability to think and even notice my thinking, so that I can actually make a choice to let go of the overweight thinking that's beyond the actual Nisayan, to stop thinking and thinking and thinking about resentment, which we're going to get to soon, and anger, and frustration, and thoughts of revenge, or thoughts of jealousy, or thoughts of I'm inadequate, or I'm just a broken down old Chevy that anyone could just beat up, and who cares? What's the difference? I'm a nobody anyway. And I'm not paying attention. My true value, that dollar bill all scrunched up, doesn't change its value. I'm a Rolls Royce inside, that never changes. I'm a neshama, Selem Elokim. This is not abstract. What we're trying to bring out with these metaphors, in this case it's a story with the palace of your mind. We're trying to bring out with these metaphors ways to help the children once a week, one metaphor a week, start to get more and more aware of how the world works and how it doesn't. The world works inside here, not outside. And so whenever I'm bullied or hurt by someone's comment, or my own bullying of I'm a slob, I'm not in control, I'm always doing, always thinking, always saying the wrong thing, I become my own bully and my own bystander by not doing anything about it. And over here, by recognizing, hey, I'm doing that thinking to me. Why would I do that? And so I start letting go of the overweight thinking. I start letting go of hey, what do I want that picture on the palace of my mind? No, I'm taking that down. You always, and then fill in the blank of the negative comment that I would say next, don't understand me, don't listen, whatever it is that, and take that picture down from the wall of my mind and replace it with one of the post-its that says, I'm happy because, I'm blessed in this world because, I'm healthy because, I'm kind because, and I start paying more attention to the good that's real in my life. In the classroom, with my friends. I've got friends. I enjoy recess. I get a workout. I'm careful with the choices I make. I make mistakes and I say sorry. I make mistakes and I apologize. I try to be respectful, and when I make a mistake, I will say sorry to the teacher or sorry to a friend. So the palace of your mind is the real you. And the concept of the metaphors of these simple post-its is to bring out that you're never really damaged. You're never traumatized. Because no matter what negativity or pain is associated to memories that you've had, you can redecorate the palace of your mind. It's not permanent. And for those who have a difficult time removing certain pictures from their mind because they've been nailed in again and again and again, so you know what? Change the caption. Change the wording underneath the picture that tells you the meaning of the picture. So you might have a picture of, well, dad's always shouting at me and mum's always criticizing me. And then put underneath, I am always being criticized. So take that down and ask yourself, what could I replace it with? Because if that's not changing at home, then how could I give it different meaning? Mum, dad is inviting me to get mad at them. Well, what else is a possible response I could have? Be quiet. Say thank you for reminding me. Whoa, that's interesting. Silent from strength as opposed from weakness. This is going to prove my real mettle, my real resilience. Am I strong? Am I weak in how I respond? In the words of Dr. Viktor Frankl, who's the father of what's called logotherapy, logo is a Greek, later on a Latin term for meaning. So logotherapy is the therapy of meaning. Meaning to say therapy, as you know, means healing. Therapy. Therapy, that's where therapy originates from the word therape, which means a healer. Someone who's healing. So meaning healing means that everything we do is in search of meaning. That's the name of his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Everything we do is because it's got meaning for us. And the more we can find meaning for something, the more motivated we are to do that thing. He developed a lot of his work after the war because of his observations during the war, when he was almost all 6 years of the Second World War in concentration camps. And he observed that the people who were more likely to survive were the ones who found meaning in what they were going through. How do you find meaning in what you're going through? Oh, so claims Viktor Frankl that those who would say, I'm going to survive the war to reunite with my family, or if they know that their family has been gassed and murdered, I'm going to survive the war to start another family. I'm going to not be an example of the cruelty mankind is capable of. And that's why I want to survive the war, to be an example of compassion, of kindness, of building, not destruction. And this was something that he actually helped many camp inmates after the war to understand, that what you go through has two aspects to the pain. There's the pain itself and the memory that might be associated to it, and then there's the meaning you give that pain. We've talked about this elsewhere, so I'm not going to go into any more detail at this point, but suffice to say that what we're describing here is very similar. That if there are pictures in the mind that are really hard to tear down, they keep popping up, delete, pop up, delete. Eventually they will go. But in the meantime, if I'm really having a hard time, so ask yourself, what other meaning can I give what I've been through? Because you're going to get two people going through very similar trauma, and one becomes a victim and expects everyone to pity, compassion, give, dole out, pay for, give me benefits. And then there's another person who's been through pretty much the same disadvantages in life and decides to contribute and to become a giver and to build his life and has a strong work ethic, earns a living, does very well, and then contributes back to society that gave to him. And you can have these two refugees go in two opposite directions, and the difference between the two is all what choices they make, what meaning they give, what they've been through. You can have a recovering alcoholic or addict who decides that instead of wallowing in lack of self-control, discovers that the addiction is not the problem. The problem is my addictive thinking, that I keep thinking that this addiction is going to get me out of my pain. It'll escape me from what I'm escaping from. And it's that wrong thinking, because actually what it's really doing is that the more I fall into the addiction, the deeper entrenched I am in the addiction. So it's actually trapping, pulling me down further and further, all in the mistaken, innocent thinking of this is what's going to get me out of my reality. I'm going to just go into imagination with LSD or whatever the drugs are, when alcohol, whatever it is, but the mistake is not the problem of the alcohol or the strength of the drug. The mistake is starting over here in what I'm thinking it's going to do for me. That's the mistake. It's a completely innocently mistaken thought. It's non-reality thinking that's getting me in trouble. So change the captions. Change the captions. And if I can't change the captions, just keep saying, Rebbe Shalom, please help me out of this. Get me out of this. I only live over here, so help me pay more attention to letting go and not getting stuck in it and thinking and thinking and thinking about what I've got to eat or drink or do to get me into happiness. No, happiness is a thought, and I'm always one thought away from the next thought. So I can actually choose happiness in a thought from now. That's a split second from now. Happiness is not what's happening to me, it's what's happening inside of me all the time. You can have the people who've got the most toys in the world and the most fame and the most money and the most cars and the most homes and the most popularity, and they're still extremely unhappy. So initially that sounds like that doesn't make sense. Is that possible? You can have everything and still be unhappy? And the answer is, of course it is, because we know the definition of happiness. The Torah tells us, Hasamech bechelkai is the true ashir. Someone who's truly wealthy enjoys whatever his chelik is. He's enjoying the good that's already in his wife, in his children, in his friends, in his classroom. This is real happiness. And that's something that's an attitude, it's a mindset that you can take with you, so that if you have 100, you'll be happy with your 100. If you have 200, you'll have 200 reasons to be. You got 1,000, oh, you got 1,000 reasons. You got 1,000,000, oh, but you keep counting the good. The problem with unhappiness is that I'm counting what I don't have that makes me unhappy. No, there's nothing that can make you unhappy unless you think you're unhappy because you don't have enough. So it's the thinking I don't have enough that's making me unhappy, not the not enough that I don't have. It's the thinking that I don't have enough that's making me unhappy. And once I realize that, hey, now I know what to let go of. It's the extra thinking that is overpowering me and making me feel that I don't have enough in my life. That is the problem.